Good evening, everyone. My name is Tyrik Wynn. I am the brand new morning news anchor at 41 NBC in Macon, Georgia, and I'm honored to serve as the chair of the NABJ Digital Journalism Task Force and your host for tonight's Vice President of Digital Candidate Forum. I first want to start off by wishing NABJ a happy 50th anniversary. Tonight is a powerful example of NABJ's commitment to transparency, leadership, and digital innovation. We're here because this is the most contested race in this year's NABJ elections. Four candidates are vying for your vote, your trust, and the opportunity to help shape the digital future of this organization. This forum is designed to give you, the members, a clear and direct window into each candidate's platform, their ideas, and their vision, and ultimately to help you make an informed decision before you cast your vote in the election. A few important election reminders. Voting officially opens on Monday, July 14th, which is this upcoming Monday, and closes on Friday, August 8th. If you plan to vote in this year's election, you must have had your NABJ membership in place by June 1st. So now let me go ahead and introduce our moderators for the evening. We have Angelica Arinze. She is an independent audience engagement journalist. Tony Betton Jr., who is the Programs and Communications Director of Usher's New Look, Usher Raymond's nonprofit organization, and recent Emmy-nominated talk show host. And then we also have Kamara Daughtry, founder of Digital Career Opportunities Worldwide and the vice chair of the NABJ Digital Journalism Task Force. These incredible journalists will be guiding our discussion and posing questions to our candidates tonight. And of course, a huge thank you to our candidates for stepping up and leading forward to serve NABJ in this vital role. Please welcome Tre'vell Anderson, Roland Martin, and Angela Smith. Vance Lang said that he had a story that he was put on last minute, and he is not able to join us, but he did send a statement, which I will read his statement when we go forward with opening statements. Before we begin, I want to go ahead and go over the rules for the forum. Each candidate will start with an opening statement. That will be 90 seconds. Responses to all questions will be limited to 60 seconds. If a candidate would like to have a rebuttal to what another candidate says, they can raise their hand in Zoom and wait to be called on. They will only have 30 seconds for a rebuttal. Candidates will conclude with a closing statement of 60 seconds. And then also towards the end of the forum, we will open the floor for audience Q&A. I will keep a time for responses. I will notify the candidates out loud when they have 10 seconds left. Once time is up, I will simply say time. If they continue, they will be muted to keep the forum running smoothly and fairly. For audience Q&A, if you'd like to ask a question to a candidate, please use the raise hand feature on Zoom. You can find it by clicking on reactions at the bottom of your screen and selecting the hand icon. Once we call on you, you will be allowed to unmute. You will say your name and clearly state who your question is for. For example, you will say, "Hi, my name is Tyrik Wynn. My question is for Tre'vell Anderson," and then proceed with your question. Please know you are only allowed to ask one question when called on. All attendees must remain muted at all times unless called upon. No interruptions or unmuted commentary will be permitted during the forum. This forum is about open, respectful dialogue and giving each candidate the opportunity to be heard and each of you the opportunity to learn, engage, and get inspired. With that, let's dive in and hear from our candidates now. We will begin with opening statements. Each candidate will have 90 seconds. We will go ahead and begin with Tre'vell Anderson for the first opening statement.
Thank you so much, Tre'vell Anderson. I use they, them pronouns. I am an independent journalist, multimedia storyteller, and digital entrepreneur based in Los Angeles. I've had the pleasure of serving in NABJ as the immediate past Region 4 director on the national board, as president of our 2020 professional chapter of the year in NABJ LA. I'm currently that chapter's treasurer, and as former chair of NABJ's LGBTQ+ task force. And when you look at my record of service to NABJ, I'm certain that you will see that a vote for me as vice president of digital is a vote for progressive leadership, radical transparency and accountability, and bold advocacy. This role demands fresh, out of the box thinking and being able to work with a spirit of collaboration. It's pivotal. And I'm running to become your next VP Digital because I feel like what I bring to the table and how I bring it to the table is exactly what our organization needs at this moment as part of our executive leadership team. My campaign platform can be summed up as Time to Slay. That's an acronym. The S is for support and invest in local chapters, task forces, and the Black press. The L is for level up the value of an NABJ membership. The A is for advocate boldly, decisively, and progressively. And the Y is for yield meaningful and member-minded results. This is a platform to inform by being in newsrooms, helping lead newsrooms, being laid off from a newsroom, and now being a freelancer, independent podcast host and producer whose boots are on the ground right alongside many of you, building a brand that I'm proud of. And I'm running to be your next vice president of digital because this organization is ours as well. And I think we need leadership that will always remember that. And I look forward to detailing more of my vision throughout this forum.
Awesome. Thank you, Tre'vell. All right, we will now go to Roland Martin for your opening statement.
Folks, appreciate it. Thank you so very much. This is an executive position job on NABJ. And what that means is it requires experience, and then results. There's nobody in this race that's my level of experience in NABJ. Student chapter founder, national student representative of the board of directors, professional chapter officer, national secretary, national vice president of digital, NABJ president award winner, journalist of the year, lifetime member, Hall of Famer, have worked with the organization in every capacity. What does that mean? It also means, can you achieve results? On the board previously, I led our advocacy efforts and we challenged CNN, ABC, CBS. What it means is when something happens, can you get the leaders of a media organization on the phone immediately? That happened when it came to CBS. It happened when we met with CNN and AT&T. What it also means is building infrastructure. I built the largest Black-owned digital media news network. I've built the infrastructure. So it's real easy to say, hey, we should do this and this and this. But what we do not have is the infrastructure for it to actually last beyond a person's 2-year term. That is critically important. So I'm going to explain further what that means. That's why a vote for Roland Martin is critically important at this juncture.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Roland. And now we will move on to Angela Smith with your opening statement.
To the Digital Journalism Task Force, thank you so much for having me. Again, my name is Angela Smith. I've been in this business for nearly 20 years, Mom of 3, a proud NABJ member. And of course, now I'm running to be your next digital VP. Because we're celebrating 50 years of NABJ, and it's time to build a foundation that can propel us to the next 50 years. And we need somebody who's going to be fearless, bold, and unapologetic about doing that. So for the past 2 years, I've served as our Region 2 director. I've worked with 13 states and myriad of chapters in major markets to college campuses, ensuring that we've been heard, supported, and seen. And that's the kind of leadership that I bring: boots on the ground, hands-on, and hard to work. So my platform is really simple. It's 3 things: innovate, advocate, and empower. So we have to innovate, right? That's why I'm proposing, the NABJ Innovation Hub. And that's a space would be on our newly revamped website where members can go in and they can explore emerging tools and experience with AI and sharpen their digital skills, because that's how we have to stay relevant. And that's how we lead. And then, of course, advocating. That's what this organization is all about: advocating for Black journalists. We'll do that in the digital space, and we'll also do that when it comes from policy to pay, content creation, tech leadership. And we'll make sure that decisions are made about our work and our worth, and that your voice will be heard at the table. Lastly, empowerment. I think this is really big, especially on the chapter and the task force level, because we want to make sure that you feel connected and engaged.
Ma'am, time. Thank you.
Thank you guys for your opening statements. I will now read aloud Vance Lang's opening statement. He said that he could not be with us because he got put on a news story at the last minute. So his statement reads as follows. He says, "Good evening, everyone. Sorry I couldn't join you tonight. I'm looking forward to using my extensive experience behind the scenes or of radio, social media, and television as VP Digital. With this great field of candidates, you can't go wrong, but I'm the right choice to ensure our voices are heard, respected, and celebrated across the digital landscape. Thank you. All right, and that was Vance Lang's opening statement. So now we will turn it, thank you to the candidates for your opening statements. We will now turn it over to our moderators for the evening. Angelica, you will ask the first question.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. So as y'all probably know, newsrooms across the country and the journalism industry as a whole are contending with the rise of AI. How will you ensure that NABJ stays ahead of and monitors these digital trends, especially with AI, audience fragmentation, and evolving media consumption habits? Tre'vell, we'll start with you first.
Yeah, well, I think it first starts with from an organizational standpoint, us developing the necessary partnerships and relationships with entities and organizations that we haven't traditionally, been partnered with, to ensure that we know what's coming down, the pipe in terms of new emerging technologies that our membership, should be on the front line of, in terms of getting access to and being prepared for. I also want to create a digital resources hub on our revamped membership platform that has virtual tools that you can access from home, right? That teach you how to effectively prompt AI chatbots, that teach you how to use AI ethically, right? If you're going to be using it to support and elevate your reporting. My goal as Vice President of Digital is to really resource members in the ways that we all need.
Thank you, Tre'vell, for that response. We'll start with Roland next.
Appreciate the question. First and foremost, for me, it's not a question of reaching out to folks about what's going on. We actually use it. We do it. We utilize the technology, and we have to understand that it's happening. And so this is not what may happen, it's what is happening. So first and foremost, we have to teach folks what it is. AI goes beyond ChatGPT, goes beyond Grok. And so it's teaching our members, but it's also establishing the ethical standards and guidelines for media entities in terms of how you utilize AI in your operations. And that's what we have to do. But we already know the technology. We know who uses it. We know exactly what they are. The question is, how do we implement it where it is safe, where it is frankly legal, where it's also not stripping jobs away, but enhancing the job of a journalist, because it is going to happen. Companies are going to make the economic decision to use AI. We can't bury our head in the sands.
I will say that we have to know that it's here. It's in our newsrooms already, right? You're probably using some form of AI already to help you enhance your stories, to make sure that your information is correct, or to help aggregate all of the content into one. So really it's about the training, the hands-on training, and making that available to our members. I think in our Innovation Hub, we'll have tools available to show you how to do that. Of course, we want to make sure that it's ethical as we're using that. And I don't think that we should fear AI. I think we just need to learn how to use it and use it in the correct way so that we can maintain in this space and of course propel to the next. So that's what I would say as far as artificial intelligence goes. We just have to make sure that we are training our members on how to use what is already happening in our newsrooms.
Thank you, everyone, for y'all's responses. We'll go ahead and have Tony answer his general questions.
Yes, thank you so much, Angelica. Thank you, Digital Task Force, for joining us this evening, and candidates, thank you for your time as well. With all of you expressing your background and experience within NABJ and within the journalism realm in general, where would you say you believe that NABJ has succeeded in advancing the presence and impact of digital journalism, digital creation, and where do you feel that it's fallen short and may have missed some opportunities that have opportunities to pivot? For that question, we'll start off with Angela.
I think our where we do well is we advocate, right? We're out here trying to make sure that our members feel seen and heard. I think where we're falling short where we are falling short is in training. We need to make sure that our members have the tools that they need to take back to their newsrooms, to take back to their employers, so that if they're coming to convention or whether they're accessing this information online, their employers will invest in them and therefore invest in NABJ. I think that's one of the biggest issues that we run into is these employers, they don't want to pay to send their folks to NABJ. They don't want to pay to cover their registration. And we need to make sure that we're offering them viable tools so that our members feel like they're getting their value out of their membership.
Thank you, Angela, for your response. Tre'vell.
Yeah, when I think of opportunities, and I'm going to focus on opportunities because I think when it comes to successes, there are very few. One of which, an opportunity that we are missing out on is the organization doesn't even have the vice president of digital role as part of its operating procedures. And so because of that, we can't be surprised the ways that this task force and the experiences we have as digital journalists, especially and explicitly, don't bubble up to major priorities of the national organization. And so we have an opportunity to, I think, use this task force, right? Because the vice president of digital should, be an active member and supporter and in relationship with this task force. I'm proud to have done that, before I was running for this position. And I think that you all, because you're on the ground alongside me, you understand, the ways and the tools, right, that are definitely necessary, not just for us, but for all journalists, right, who are also navigating the issues that we are doing as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tre'vell. Roland, you can round us off.
Really, from the success, I'm going to answer your question. From the success standpoint, it's really our student product at the convention. Frankly, we've been woeful. I got no problem saying it. I'm someone who has been riding numerous presidents on this issue, and there's been an unwillingness to do what's necessary to allocate the resources to look at how do you do your programming. It's been a slow build. Look, I had a Black-owned publisher, a Black newspaper called me today wanting me to sit with them because they're going all digital in October. And you know what drives me crazy? I ran that paper 26 years ago. And the things that I'm doing right now digital, I was talking about doing in 1999, but they weren't trying to do that. That's our issue. We have been behind the curve. NABJ has not been leading, we've been behind. And so that's why you've got to have the leadership move us forward. We don't even live stream most of the stuff at our convention. So we're not even properly using digital platforms, even for our national convention.
All right. Thank you, candidates. With our next general question, Kamara, I'll hand it to you.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everybody, and thank you, all of the candidates for joining us. I want to touch one more time. Matter of fact, instead of AI, let me ask this. Last year, Trump, his presence at the convention, it was a big digital controversy. How would you have handled it? We're going to start off with Tre'vell.
Yeah, I was a sitting board member at that time. The way, in case you don't know, if you're not in the executive board of leadership, you're kind of disempowered. And so how I would have handled it differently is I would have, sought the counsel of these duly elected board members to get their decision on should we extend these invites in the first place, considering, the unprecedented moment that we are in. I imagine that the board would have voted to do so. And then we would have been able to use the expertise of the folks on the board to support our decision making, to use our media related member, right, to support with, how we go about controlling the narrative around not just Trump's presence, but also the circumstances that prevented Vice President Harris from joining us, at least virtually, there as well. I think it's important to use the folks who have been elected, right? And we haven't been doing that. Our president leadership have been,
Wait a second,
moving on their own.
Tre'vell, thank you. Okay,
Thank
next,
you.
Angela.
I believe that it's really about getting the message out, right? To inform the members about this is what is happening at our convention. A lot of people felt like they did not get the message out. They didn't get, we as NABJ did not deliver that message before. Obviously, it came out from the current administration at that time, or excuse me, the President Trump at that time. They didn't feel like Kamala was given a forum to rebut at the convention. So I think there were a couple of things that we could have done. Obviously, get the message out in time to let them know this is what you're coming for. I think if you're a veteran of NABJ, you know that we have candidates come every election year. So that's something I think you should have looked forward to and actually wanted, because we wanted our members up there to be able to ask questions of our possible electeds. And then, of course, making sure that we had given a platform to VP Harris at the time, so that she could have, our members could have asked those same questions of her during the convention.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Mr. Martin.
I have to disagree with Tre'vell. You're not disempowered as a board member. Leadership means having presence, not being present. I was a national student rep. I got more things done, didn't even have a vote as a national student rep because of how I led. I'm sorry. No board member should have been silent, or it should have been very aggressive and demanding answers. What's going on here? So, first off, I wasn't even a board member. I immediately, the night the press release went out, I texted the executive director, Ken Lemon. I texted the board members, and I said point blank to them, where's our statement? Why is Harris Faulkner on the panel? He's got to be a member. And also, where are the male members on that panel? We have to lead.
Roland, time.
Hold on. I thought to answer the question, there was 60 seconds.
That was, you were given a rebuttal, correct?
No, actually, no, I wasn't. I was answering his question.
No, he wasn't.
20 seconds.
I called on him.
Oh, okay. Okay, you
gotta
got
start him.
Yeah, I wasn't getting, that's what I'm saying.
I apologize. I'm sorry.
Okay, so I had you cut me at 25 seconds. All right.
So, yeah, my apologies. Please go ahead.
All right. So then our president tells Axios what happened backstage, doesn't even tell the members. And then when Donald Trump came on that stage and lied about why we were late, somebody, the president or anybody on the board, should have stood up and said, wait a minute, you're not going to lie to the public about what just happened. And so we allowed that to happen. Our leadership failed us in that moment, and that to me was wrong.
Thank you. That wraps up my question.
Thank you, moderators, for your questions thus far. Okay, so now we will go into individual candidate questions. Each moderator will ask one question to each candidate. So we will go ahead and have Angelica ask the question to Tre'vell.
So Tre'vell, you've long championed historically excluded communities and work independently as a freelancer and podcaster. How would you ensure that NABJ becomes more responsive and a resource-rich space for freelancers and non-traditional journalists?
Yeah, well, I think first and foremost, it requires us having legitimate representation in that top tier of leadership of the organization, right? And particularly someone who is still building their company, who is, on the ground with you all, navigating these things every day. So I think that's important. I think part of it is also we need a digital kind of reorientation for the organization to move us away from this space where people are delegitimizing what it means to be a digital journalist and recognizing that we are all digital journalists because we are all having to navigate, how digital, how AI, how all of these tools are impacting our work. I think once we do that kind of reorientation, we'll see that we won't need an innovation bubble, right? We'll be able to see that kind of programming throughout the entire convention and providing the necessary training tools that everyone can tap into at home at your leisure in case you don't make it.
Thank you so much for that response. For the next question, we will kick it off to Tony.
Yes, thank you so much for that. My next question is for Angela. So Angela, as someone who has focused on public trust and digital credibility, how would you address misinformation and disinformation that's impacting the Black communities? And, you know, how would you be able to fight that?
I think it's really about getting in front of the message and really getting out to the boots on the ground, right? We have to engage with our community and let them know, give them the information that is correct, and let them know here are the resources and here are the places where you can find the information. I think NABJ in of itself has a great opportunity to grow with that, with our Black news and views. We have a platform, we could promote it to our community to where they could actually find stories that we're covering in our own chapters, in our own locations, and really push out that information from ourselves as a media and as a news source. So I believe that is one of the big ways to fight that disinformation is you have to combat it with what's real, and you have to present it to our community and make sure that they have the resources and the access to get to it.
There we go. Thank you so much for your answer. Kamara?
Roland, I do have a question. I want to know, because we know just attendance is low and everybody is on social media, but we need to know how can we attract Black students basically to come to NABJ? What would be your best approach or really just to be involved when it comes to the digital task force?
Okay, when you say, I need to clarify, when you say attendance is low, what are you speaking of?
Attendance with the NABJ Digital Task Force.
Okay, gotcha. Well, first of all, we got tons of task force, and a lot of people, go where they want to go. And so the issue then has to be is what is the programming of the task force? And that means how often are we doing webinars? We don't actually have to do it with the national office. We can actually create it on our own. The model for the digital task force is a sports task force. The sports task force has the most profitable party. They are the most active task force in terms of their programming. And not only that, they have played the most critical role in placing Black sports journalists in media outlets across the country. And so we have to, first of all, define not just we have a task force, but what does the task force do? The reality is there's no such thing as newspaper, television stations, radio stations. It's all now digital. Okay. And so we have to recognize the industry has changed, but we have to redefine what the task force is and have the programming to match.
Thank you.
All right. This question is for Angela. So you've worked extensively in both NABJ Region 2 and in community spaces like your church and your sorority. How would you bridge the gap between NABJ's digital goals and local community engagement?
We do that now is we hold workshops, especially for community members, work with a lot of nonprofits who are looking for information on how they push out their content, how they get our news organizations to show up. And so we offer them the space to show them how simple things of how to write a press release, how to run your social media, how to do those sorts of training. Again, the same trainings that probably we would even want to offer to some of our members, we're offering to community members because we want to make sure that they have the same playing field as some of these bigger, larger organizations that maybe have a larger budget to work with. So I would think it's really about inviting them into the space, showing them what the media world is, and making sure that they have access to get their message out to different platforms and different mediums.
Thank you so much for that response. Tony, kick it off to you.
Yes, and my question is for Tre'vell. Now, you've described yourself as a chief imagination officer. What bold or imaginative digital ideas would you be able to bring to the NABJ table that haven't been explored just yet? And how would you be able to ensure that there's that inclusiveness and that representation as you do so?
Yeah, I think the fact that the membership platform looks like it was, founded 50 years ago is a problem, right? It's not a space that encourages any of us to go on to it, and it doesn't have resources, right, for us in the first place. And so when I think of, reimagining, part of it is about using and making the necessary investment as an organization into a platform in a space where that invites us in, that makes us want to tap into what's being provided. I also think that we need to do a radical embrace of content creators and digital, social media influencers, folks who want to add a bit of journalistic heft to their work. Many of us are already at that intersection of labels in the work that we are doing. And so what would it look like for us to incorporate those folks into what we're doing?
All right. Thank you, Tre'vell, for that. Kamara.
Okay. So Roland, you run your own media company and you understand firsthand what employers look for in today's content creators. So with digital creators often outpacing traditional journalists, what new resources can you offer to support non-traditional journalists or freelancers year round? Mhm.
Well, the reality is we're the National Association of Black Journalists. And so my focus is dealing with journalists. And we have to make that distinction as critically important because there are individuals who are content creators, but they're not journalists. So we have to do that. But when it comes to the journalists or really even that group, what we have to do is we got to teach folks monetization. I mean, I can't have a 5,800 square foot studio 2 blocks from the White House if we're not generating money. And so content is easy. I mean, that's the easiest thing to do. It really is. But how do you get paid? And so we have to teach people the business of the business. And that is what is required. And so that is hugely important because people are not able to earn a living. Even non-journalism content creators, they don't understand the business of the business. And so that training is critically important. And again, we built it. We've been profitable for 5 years. We know how to do it. And so I can take that experience of having a multi-million-dollar business and transfer it to teach our members how to do it themselves as well.
Time.
Thank you.
So this question is for Tre'vell. You've emphasized transparency and accountability in your candidate statement. What specific changes would you advocate for to make NABJ's digital communications and operations more member-minded and mission-driven?
Yeah, well, first thing comes to mind is, I think about the ways that we are supposed to be sharing information with our members and equipping you with the information about what we are doing. And that's the minutes that are supposed to be submitted. The format of those are horrible. It doesn't actually allow you as a member to tap in and see what's actually happening. And we don't use our newsletter and digital platforms effectively to ensure that we are communicating, the webinars that are available, the training programs that we do have, the tools and resources, and discount opportunities that sometimes pop up. And so I think part of it is about tapping into, what appears to be our communications approach as an organization and reorienting it in a way that is responsive to membership needs, not just what we've always done as an organization.
Can I answer that question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. First of all, live stream the damn board meeting. This is not difficult. I mean, I keep hearing how people like, oh my God, it's so hard. It's actually not. So we should be live streaming the board meeting so members who can't travel to a city can actually watch and hear the board at work. Obviously, you can't do executive session, but you can do the board meeting. Second of all, my God, can we stop sending out press releases at 9 p.m. on a damn Friday night? I've never seen an organization with PR members here, and we literally send stuff out at 8 and 9 o'clock, even responding to what happens in media. So our own digital communications in response to stuff in the business is horrible. And so that it has driven me crazy when we've actually done that. We were far more faster and responsive and timely when I was on the board sending out statements. And so that's what we have to do. Communicate to the members using digital tools.
Thank you so much for your response. Kamara?
Okay. So my question now is for Angela. I want to ask you, what is your plan to modernize NABJ's digital offerings while still honoring our legacy when it comes to journalism?
I think it's simply making sure that our members have access to webinars, to training, that they're easily accessible, that you have a website that you can get onto through the membership portal, and you can watch videos on ethics training, on constitutional information, on how to use artificial intelligence, that you are able to access our meetings through digital offerings. And that if you are unable to come to a convention, that through our regional conferences, that you have access on a much cheaper expense to you as a member, where you can get these same trainings and the same value and the same bang for your buck.
Thank you. And next, okay, never mind, you see.
Yes, our final moderating question I have is for Roland. With your experiences, the connections that you've made, and even on your online statement, you mentioned extensive relationships. How can you vision NABJ's digital expansion nationally and globally when it comes to our footprint? So just more people knowing what is NABJ. How do you plan to be able to assist and lead in expanding that digital footprint?
Well, 2019, I was in Ghana for the year return, connecting with journalists there. Last year, I was in Ethiopia for a major film festival there, connecting with people there, having conversations right now with folks in Liberia, in Kenya, in Tanzania. And so understanding how do you operate on the international stage? And so that also means that we are effectively utilizing our YouTube channel. Again, we just have to be own up to it. We've sucked. We have content, we have sessions, we have conventions, and we do not share it with the world. That has to absolutely change. The last time we actually streamed significant portions of our convention was 2018, 2019. You know who did it? I did. I literally brought two of my own team members because NABJ couldn't figure it out. They kept saying, oh my God, this is hard. I said, you know what? I'm going to take care of it. And we actually did it. The reason today people are still quoting and showing video of Tyler Perry at our convention, because I actually streamed that. It was literally my territory that streamed it. So we have got to have people who know how to do this leadership.
All right, thank you guys for those individual questions. We will now go to the audience for an audience Q&A. So just to reiterate this, so if you'd like to ask a question to a candidate, please use the raise your hand feature on Zoom. You can find it by clicking on reactions at the bottom of your screen and selecting the hand icon. Once you are called on, you will be allowed to unmute and say your name. Clearly state who your question is for. For example, you will say, hi, my name is Tyrik Wynn. My question is for Tre'vell Anderson, and then proceed with your question. All right, so while you guys are getting your questions together, I will go ahead and read this audience submitted question. It says, Roland, this question is for Roland Martin, by the way. It says, Roland, what did you do for the membership beyond advocacy about CNN when you were the VP of Digital 4 years ago? Why should you serve again?
First of all, of course, let me explain you the CNN piece. That wasn't just CNN. I literally put together the entire coalition of civil rights groups, fraternities, and sororities that put pressure on CNN and led to 5 African-American journalists being appointed to VP or higher. Then when the story came out where Barbara Fadida made a racist comment regarding Robin Roberts, put that statement out, was part of the team that met with Peter Rice in Disney. She was later let go. When the LA Times did their story talking about CBS, 2 executives and how they were leaders, I sent the email to George Cheeks, the CEO of CBS. He responded 15 minutes later. We were on the phone with him 4 hours later. When what happened with Maria Taylor and ESPN led that effort as well. I talked about, hey, who's the last major speaker at our convention? Tyler Perry. I personally text Tyler and booked him in 10 minutes. In terms of also using the relationships with folks and fundraising folks, I've done all of that. And so that's what I've been able to do. You got to have somebody who can pick the phone up, not call a secretary, not call an assistant or somebody else, who can get to people directly. And that's how I was able to benefit NABJ in leading in that way.
Okay, this next question is posed for everyone. This is also an audience submitted question. This comes from Bené Wilson. She was NABJ's first VP Digital and longtime chair of the NABJ Digital Journalism Task Force. Her question says, AI is here and it's not going away. It's good that we're adding AI programming at the national convention and regional conferences, but an hour of training isn't nearly enough. The Online News Association has been doing free weekly AI training for its members for a year. NABJ members need to learn how to use this technology ethically to help them do their job smarter and better. As VP Digital, can you give me specifics on exactly what you'll do to ensure that regular AI training is made available to the membership? Angela, we'll go ahead and go with you. All of you guys are going to answer this question, by the way.
I think she said it right there. You have to make sure that you have regular trainings available. And I think that comes from working with our members who have experience in artificial intelligence. And I think that comes from these actual tech companies who are putting out these programs and making sure that we're inviting them and some of their representatives in to train our members on these programs so that we know how to use the different programs out there and make sure that they are working in our newsroom. We're working with Otter, we're working with Grammarly, we're working with some Chat GPT. We've got all of these different programs out here, but we want to make sure that we are using them well. And then making sure that our newsrooms know that we are working with them ethically. I think that's the big thing that we run into, that we use AI, but then when you try to put it in the newsroom, they say, well, you can't use it here because it's not your work. So we have to make sure that we're bridging the gap to make sure that we have the ethics behind what we're using and that our audience knows that it is our work, it is our stories that we're telling.
All right, thank you. And we'll go ahead and go to Tre'vell for that question.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is about doing that and about proving that we want our programming and the resources that we are offering to be accessible to our members. But those resources also need to be engaging, right? You need to feel like you need to do the NABJ AI training and not the ONA one. Right. And so I think it requires us to build those necessary relationships with emerging platforms, with the platforms that are already here early, right? To be on boots on the ground, as many of us have been saying now, in terms of realizing what is unfolding in the market and making sure that we are, seizing every opportunity to make sure our members are the first ones or early ones to be able to adopt and use these platforms.
Thank you, Tre'vell. We'll go ahead and go to Roland for that question.
In answer to the last question, I talked about how I was able to put together the coalition of D9 organizations, churches, civil rights groups. We were putting pressure on CNN. Why can't we do the exact same thing? Why do we have to keep trying to reinvent the wheel? 2 days ago, I literally got a text message from the founder of Blavity about wanting me to live stream my show from their Afrotech conference in Houston in November. Why are we not accessing other talent, other organizations? But we also have to build infrastructure. Folks, the reason we have failed as an organization is that when we go from board to board or officer to officer, there's no infrastructure that keeps that thing going. So first, what is the infrastructure you build first? Then you build on top of that. So that means tapping our members, but tapping non-members with the expertise to bring them in, including ONA. And so we could literally be doing the exact same thing.
In seconds.
To be taxing our members when it comes to doing stuff. Have coalitions, but you got to be able to know folk to be able to call them to do it.
Thank you, Roland, for that question. Just wanted to remind the audience that you guys have the ability. This is now the audience Q&A portion. So if you guys have a question, go ahead and use the raise your hand feature, and then we will go ahead and get to you with your question. In the midst of time, do we have, while we're waiting on audience questions, moderators, do you guys have any additional questions that you would like to ask?
No.
Okay, got you.
For the sake of time, no.
Journalists with no extra questions?
You know what? I'll just see you on Twitter. Sure.
Trust me, I got
it. I'll give you a question.
Well, hold on, y'all, that was wide open right there. That was the alley-oop.
Can I ask a question? I mean, I just want to know from the Digital Journalism Task Force, what are you all looking for? I know you had talked about engagement. You want to get retention for your task force. What are you all looking for? Why are you a part of this task force? How do you want to move it forward?
I can take that. I'll tell you this. When Tyrik and I, when we spoke at the convention last year, correct? Yeah, we did. We spoke last year. When we were sitting there in the room with people, they just basically kept saying, listen, they're going for these digital jobs and they want to know how can they merge a content life, but also still keep, doing their job as a journalist at the news station. So Tyrik and I, we are about entrepreneurship, and we're also about, reporting the news with truth and with clarity. So what we're doing now here is for the task force, we want the best person, and we want the members to vote for the best person who can drive that forward, because it's no longer, you can just work a 9 to 5. You also have to have your own as well. And that's what we want to teach others. So that's something. That's a Kamara thing, okay? So, okay.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I definitely agree with her on that. I'll say for me as the task force chair, I know one thing that I would like for us to do is definitely raise more funds for the task force. Like someone stated earlier that, the sports journalism task force, I mean, that's one of the best task forces. They are the example. And so, if we can get to a good point, somewhere close to that level at least, would definitely be fantastic. And that would be great. I know this year we were hoping to host a reception, but unfortunately we did not get the sponsorship for that reception. So unfortunately we had to cancel, but we will be having a meeting at the convention. So we will still definitely have a presence there. So I'll definitely say next year we would love to have a great reception, a great networking event and all those great things. So yeah, raising dollars, raising funds, and definitely, definitely open to working. We would love to work with the next VP of Digital on brand new ideas as well, to also bring in more people, get more engagement up and things of that nature. And Tony, you got your hand up.
Yeah, I was just gonna tag onto that and say I love that we've been hearing so much in regards to training, but I think also being able to put that into action is a good thing as well. So, in whatever that looks like across the country, in whatever specific cities, if there's a way for us to be able to start to present content, whether it's on behalf of NABJ, whether the task force starts their own thing, I think being able to produce content will be able to add on to the training that's also being presented.
Thank you, Tony, for that. Oh, and Angela, you look like you were saying something, but you were muted.
Oh, I was getting ready to say, I agree with that. I mean, you are the Digital Journalism Task Force, and I think that there's a lot of growth with this task force, especially as far as NABJ goes and taking a hold and taking the reins of the digital portion and presenting. I know that you all did a kind of a post-mortem after Chicago. Was that correct, or was that Birmingham? I can't remember.
When you're talking about the after convention conversation?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did it both times. Yeah.
Okay, a couple of times. So I think, again, capitalizing on those outlets, making sure that it's promoted so that other people can participate. I know that, people give their feedback. They do the survey, but this definitely opens up the platform. So a lot of growth, a lot of room for growth for this, definitely for the journalism task force.
Mm-hmm. And I think Roland had even kind of spoke on a little bit earlier in regards to streaming. Tyrik at one of the recent conferences had a whole setup where we were having live podcast conversations. So even being able to stream live to where it's a desk or a booth or a set for the digital task force, that seemed like an opportunity to be able to have presence there as well. And in integrating that streaming, grab the president of ABC, grab this person, grab Robin Roberts, and to be able to have these conversations live.
Can I jump in? Is that okay?
Yes.
I think one of the things I want to note is, as a former task force chair, I know that the NABJ doesn't invest in our task forces. They leave it up to you to figure it out. And the reality is all of us are volunteering here. right? And so we do what we can. We show up in the ways that we can. But I believe NABJ has the ability to be more intentional and hands-on and to support our task forces with some starter funds, right? So that you can do something. I feel like that's one of the ways that we could be showing kind of our gratitude to our members who give so much to and particularly our task force chairs who give so much to our organization. So I wanted to be sure to uplift that.
Well, on that point, but this is why we have to be non-traditional. What I mean by that is, listen, folks, 90% of NA's budget is derived from the national convention. It has never been that high. So what that means is you've got to be able to create alternative sources of revenue coming into the convention. And so one of the things that I said is we should be identifying the top 100 earners in NABJ, individuals who need tax breaks, who can make charitable contributions, and go to them and literally say, we want you to make a minimum of $100,000 commitment to NABJ. That's $25,000 a year. Folks, you hit that 100 people at 100 grand each, that's $10 million. Now you have an endowment that you can invest that actually then can fund these things. It's going to non-media sources. Why are we not having a serious investment from Microsoft, from Apple, from tech companies, and we all utilize their tools? It's because our leadership has frankly been thinking, operating, and moving too small.
Thank you guys for that. I really like how we just had open dialogue. That was different. So I appreciate that. I was glad we were able to have that. So right now it is 9:06. We are approaching 9:15. So what we'll go ahead and do is we'll go ahead and do closing statements for each candidate. Since we do have extra time, I will go ahead and give you guys 2 minutes each for your closing statements. And Angela, we will go ahead and go with you for the first closing statement.
Well, thank you again to the Digital Journalism Task Force for having all of us on this evening. I'm running to not just to keep up with change, but to help lead it or to lead it. But I really want to work with all of the individuals, all of our members to make sure that we get there. So from streaming dominance to innovation in artificial intelligence and the future of journalism in digital, NABJ has to be at the forefront, right? And we know that, and we want to make sure that they're there. So I bring experience. Of course, I work as a digital content manager. So I'm working with these tools. I'm working to figure out what works in the newsroom. I'm making sure that we're looking at the ethical value. Of course, we're developing strategy so that we're making sure that what we're putting in place works. And if it doesn't, that we're revamping to make sure we're heading in the correct direction. And of course, passion. I'm passionate. I've worked with chapters, helped launch and build and found the Kansas Association of Black Journalists. Of course, now I'm working as a Region 2 director, already working toward our regional conference. So that's the commitment that I bring to NABJ, and that's the same commitment that I would bring as your Vice President of Digital. So innovate boldly, advocate fearlessly, and empower purposefully. Let's build the future of Black journalism together. I am Angela Smith, and I humbly ask for your vote for NABJ Vice President of Digital.
Thank you, Angela, for that closing statement. We'll go ahead and move on to Roland Martin for your closing statement.
Folks, I appreciate this forum and the opportunity to answer your questions and to speak. Cuba Gooding Jr., there was a great statement in the movie Jerry Maguire where he said, "This ain't show friends, it's show business." And the greatest failure of NABJ in the last 2 decades has been we don't have business people on our board. Nothing against journalists. We're all journalists. But I got to remind people, we're a business. And to be Vice President Digital, you were a member of the executive committee, which means that's the personnel committee. That's the person that's hiring the executive director. I participated in hiring EDs. I've unfortunately had to participate in massaging EDs leaving and negotiating those deals and bringing new EDs in. And so this next board has to choose a new executive director. Our current board is failing us. Every single person on that board is failing us because we don't even know what the hell the process is to hire a new executive director. And so we've got to have business people who understand P&L responsibility, profit and loss, who understand how to negotiate deals. We've got to have people, when we walk into meetings and we're meeting with Disney and Comcast and major companies, and the person across the table, we know who they are and they know who we are. Unfortunately, and I've been in those meetings, we've had board members who have no idea who these major media executives are. We need people sitting at the table who understand how to wield power, who know how to get things done, who can pick the phone up and call political leaders, entertainment leaders, business leaders, and who can also raise money. We're talking about how to fund task force. It ain't happening unless you have money. And that means having someone in this position who can execute a larger vision than just what we've done in the past. And that's why I'm the best person for Vice President Digital.
Thank you, Roland, for that closing statement. And Tre'vell, you will have the final closing statement.
Thank you all for being here tonight. What I will say is I don't know folks and I don't have massive connections, but as a freelancer, I know how to cultivate the necessary relationships and fund my own storytelling while building a brand and a company that is successful by my own metrics. Who I am and the vision I'm articulating is deeply rooted in an authenticity that I feel like you are due, and a vote for me as your next Vice President of Digital. I've been saying I feel like rises to the occasion of this moment we find ourselves in. My traditional newsroom experience paired with the daily lessons that I'm learning as a freelancer and emerging digital entrepreneur, I feel like gives me a unique lens, but it's also my spirit of collaboration that undergirds my leadership style that I truly believe separates me from the other candidates. And I think it's important to be accountable to you all. The Vice President of Digital role is the one that requires outside the box thinking. It requires doing things differently. It requires being an expansive and inclusive person. And I think I'm the most expansive and inclusive thinker and actor here. I am a, find a way or make one kind of journalist, and I'm willing to hustle for you all just like I'm hustling for myself. And you can believe that because I've been doing it right prior to running for this role. A vote for me as your next Vice President of Digital is a vote for NABJ being a better resource for us all. It's for transparency and for accountability. And it's for finally, placing the experiences that we are having as a priority, among our national leadership. Thank y'all for your time.
Thank you, Tre'vell, for that closing statement. And thank you all so much for joining us tonight. I want to first begin by offering a big thank you to our incredible moderators, Angelica, Tony, and Kamara Daughtry, for leading us through a thoughtful and engaging conversation. And of course, a sincere thank you to all of our 4 candidates, Tre'vell Anderson, Vance Lang, Roland Martin, and Angela Smith, for sharing your platforms, your vision, and your commitment to advancing NABJ's digital future. We appreciate your willingness to step up and serve. To everyone in the audience, thank you guys so much for being an engaged part of this process. This race for Vice President of Digital is the most contested in this year's NABJ elections, and your voice as a voter truly matters. This forum was designed to give you guys insight into the leadership at stake, and I hope tonight has helped you guys feel more confident, informed, and empowered. As a reminder, voting begins on Monday, July 14th, which is next week, and voting ends on Friday, August 8th. Also, you must have had your NABJ membership in place by June 1st to be eligible to vote in this election. This is your chance to shape the future of our organization and shape the future of this task force, especially in the vital area of digital journalism. On behalf of the Digital Journalism Task Force, we thank you guys so much once again for being here tonight, for asking important questions, and for staying engaged with NABJ. We wish all the candidates the very best. And with that, this concludes our forum. And before we officially go, I want to invite everyone to officially join the Digital Journalism Task Force. To join the Digital Journalism Task Force, all you guys have to do is go to our Instagram page, which is NABJ DJTF. And then you guys will click the link in our bio, and it will take you to the Google form where where you guys can sign up to be part of the Digital Journalism Task Force, and you guys can get the email blast and get heavily involved with the Digital Journalism Task Force. Hope everybody has an amazing rest of your evening, and we will see you guys at the polls and at the convention next month. Thank y'all so much once again. Catch you guys next time.
Take care.
Thank you.
You can stop recording.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Give me 1 second, please. We have somebody named Talu on. Did you have a question?